We are in the middle of Tzidkas Hatzadik Samachay. Sorry for missing a week. I was enjoying my grandson's bar mitzvah. I'm going to recap what we learned because we were smack in the middle, but it's a new inyan a little bit. But I want to give a hakdama, which he doesn't mention, a gemara that we're all familiar with. The gemara says at the end of Tainus, Amar Rabbi Chelboy, Amar Ula Bira, Amar Rabbi Elazar. This is quoted in the name of Rabbi Elazar in a number of places in Shas, but this is famous at the end of Titus because this is the siyum of Masechta Titus, where it says as follows: Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lasois Machal L'Tzadikim B'Gan Eden. That there's going to come a time, Lasid La'avai, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a machal l'tzadikim b'gan Eden. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a machal. What's a machal? Circle. Circle. Rashi says machal eagle. Make a circle of tzadikim. Not everybody gets to go into the circle and dance. So, machal l'tzadikim b'gan Eden. V'hu yoshev beinehem, and Hashem himself will be sitting amongst them. V'chol echad ve'echad mara alav be'etzbai. Everyone is going to, all the tzaddikim are going to be pointing to Hashem. Shenemar v'omar b'yoim ha'od. How's it go? There you go. They're going to be pointing. That's the important. Something about Lasid Lavai, this tzaddikim. Just imagine this, that there's going to be a circle of the tzaddikim, I guess the tzaddikim of all the generations. Otherwise, which tzaddikim we're talking about? Tzaddikim, so Avraham Avinu, and the Chai Brisker, and the Balatanya, all in a circle. And they're all going to be pointing to Hashem, and they're going to be saying, or singing, so it's a beautiful Gemara, a beautiful niggin. What does it mean? So Rabbi Kiveger says something so simple but so beautiful, and he says that, which will serve as an introduction to what we're going to learn here, saying that all the different tzaddikim of all the different generations had a different way of getting close to Hashem and doing the Ratzon Hashem. And every one of these tzaddikim that represented different drachim are all sure that their derech is the right derech, and their chasidim and talmidim and are all sure that their derech is the right derech. There is no other derech. Everybody else is, not the real thing. But Lasid Lavai, all of those different tzaddikim are going to be in a circle. Says Rabbi Kiveger, what's a circle? A circle is, you have a circle at a point exactly central in the middle of the circle, which is Hashem, where it's equidistance from every tzaddik to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a circle where nobody's at the front and nobody's at the back. And it's a circle where everybody's looking at each other. It's a circle, not a line. And in that circle, says Rabbi Kiveger, everybody's going to realize that, I'm standing at one distance to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the other guy on the other side standing the same distance to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so are they, and so are they, and who knows how big this circle is. We're talking about a Gan Eden, maybe thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. I don't know how big the circle is. But everybody is equidistant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning that all these drachim are going to be equivalent in terms of getting closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a lot of different ways. And I just love the feeling of what are they going to do when they're in this circle? They're going to point to Hashem. That was the Ikar. And they're going to say, Zeh, ayoim kividu loy. Boy, were we waiting for this day. See, I just want to point out, do we believe this is a good thing? On one level. On another level, we're sure our derech is the right derech and every other derech is the wrong derech. It's pasha. Not just politically, but not just in, but all the drachim are ways to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe you can't know this until you get to this circle, the inner circle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the inner circle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everybody's pointing and saying, whoa, were we waiting for this day? Pointing with their finger. Everything here is deep Kabbalah, but I'm not saying any Kabbalah because I don't know any Kabbalah. I'm just saying the Pashat of Pshat. Rabbi Kiveger, it was all about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? It wasn't about, this is the right derech halima. It was all there. I presume if there's legitimacy to the derech and it was sincere, Zeh Hashem kividu loy. Nagila v'nismacha b'shuasai. So that's talking about La'asid, the time of the Gula. I'll just tell you something fascinating. Where does Rabbi Kiveger say this? Where's Rabbi Kiveger say this? I'll tell you where he says it. This is brought in the Sefer Teres Emes, which was written by his grandson, Rabbi Yaacov. Rabbi Yaacov was the grandson of Rabbi Kiveger, who departed from the ways of Rabbi Kiveger, and he became a chassid of the Izbitzer Rebbe, ad kedei kach, that the shmua in the Hasidic world is that Rabbi Kiveger sat shiva on him. Or a chassid. Not just a chassid, but the worst kind, because, the Izbitzer was everything was upside down, Izbitzer Rebbe. And the Izbitzer Rebbe was attracting the big Go'elim, the big Iluyim, all the young Iluyim of Klal Yisrael, Tzadok, Hakohen was there. They came, these big sort of Litvisha Go'enim that were really Go'enim. Tzadok was a Nechad Agra. Rabbi Yaacov was a Nechad Rabbi Kiveger. We're talking about the biggest minds, many, many more, by the way. And they came together at the Israel of Rabbi Yaacov. This is at Sefer Teres Emes, where he writes about, where he has a siyum on Masechta Titus. So he says, this is what my grandfather said. My grandfather was so against me, and I'm so, we're such opposite ways, but there's going to come a time that everybody is going to stand in one circle, everybody is the same derech. It's more fascinating where it says it than what it says. Otherwise, I looked yesterday trying to find maybe where is the original Rabbi Kiveger, and Rabbi Kiveger is only in Rabbi Yaacov. The Hasidim were so, let's tell you a little Hasidic shtickle, that they were so excited that Rabbi Kiveger's grandson became a chassid. Kiveger was a big misnagid. It was a very big misnagid. At that time, it was a big thing. I mean, we're not misnagdim anymore because we're not. First, you have to be pro something, and then you can be against it. We're not. But I couldn't find this Rabbi Kiveger, only in Rabbi Yaacov. But I just want to tell you, it was a Maskira story I once heard. They say that actually a very similar idea, and then we'll get to what we're learning. But the Chazon Ish, who was a very, very intense Gaon, and when I learned a Chazon Ish, it's I'm humbled by Kol HaTorah because I don't know anything, but when I learn a Chazon Ish, I feel like I don't know how to learn. That's how I feel. Whenever I learn the Chazon Ish, I have to read it over 10 times till I understand what the Chazon Ish is saying. It's something about the Chazon Ish. But he was a very, very intentional gadol. He knew exactly what he was doing, how he was learning, and he wasn't mavater on it at all. And I read the story once that he hardly came to Yerushalayim. He was a B'nai Brak. He hardly came to Yerushalayim. But at the funeral of Rabbi Yosef Blau, I think he was one of the Gedolim of the Yerushalayim, the Badatz, and he had a Charedus for Beres of Blouse. So the Chazon came to that Levaya, and he was sitting at the Levaya. There's a picture of this. He's sitting and he's staring with his stare at the Chabila Rav. He's just staring at him. And he finally, whoever was with the Chazon Ish, he says to him, who is that man that the Shechina shire on him? Now, I just want to say this. The Chabila Rav was like such a, he was a Ilui Atzum, the founder of Chabila Rav, Chabila Yeshiva. It was such a, but it was like a real Polish guy, like he was like, the Pilpulim and completely different than the Chazon Ish. I just like a completely different idea than the Chazon Ish. It's like the Chazon Ish probably wrote all of his farm just la'afuke somebody like the Chabila Rav. And he's staring at him and he sees the Shechina. You can see the picture, by the way. You can't see the Shechina. It didn't come out in the black and white shot, but you can see. There's a picture I saw. You can look at it. You can Google this. There's a picture of the Chazon Ish staring at the Chabila Rav. Who is this man that the Shechina shari on him? So they told him. So he said, "Bring me his svarim." And they brought later Bnei Brak. They brought those svarim of the Chabila Rav. And so I heard this story that the Chazon Ish was extremely machmir on chametz, that he wouldn't let a sefer out off the shelf. It was all covered up, except for 2-3, because you have to check every single page, and you have to wash every page, and you have to wipe down every page for chametz. He's worried about pirurin. Chazon Ish was like very worried about pirurin, and so he took out before Pesach, and he cleaned very well. Maybe 3-4 svarim. That's all he had for Pesach. He had his Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah, they say. This is what they say. The Mishnah Berurah and the Sefer of the Chabila Rav. That's what he had on his table for Pesach. And somebody came to the Chabila Rav and they said they were by the Chazon Ish. And the Chazon Ish has on his table the Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah, and the Sefer of the Chabila Rav. Like amazing, the Chazon Ish. So the Chabila Rav said, this is a simon that he never looks at it, so there's no chash chametz. So here you have the Polish bill. Okay, why am I telling you all this? Because I'm not speaking about Achdus, and this is not about Achdus. This is about something else. This is about. And I have to wonder to myself, do we actually believe, and if we don't, we should, do we actually believe that there are harbe drachim l'makom and they're all equal? I'm just asking, do we really believe that or do we not believe that? It sounds very nice, and Achdus, and we shall overcome and all that, but it sounds very, very beautiful, but is it right? I think it's more right now than it was 100 years ago. I think we're doing better at that, but you have to lower the temperature on the passion in order for everyone to be able to accept other people. But if you have people that are passionate about their drachim, and it's so difficult to see, Rav Shach and the Lubavitch Rebbe dancing, so it's hard to see.
Isn't it surprising they'd all be equal and that they're all valid, but that they'd all be equal?
That's what a circle is, right? Machal.
But what does that mean? They're all equal.
So the Chazon Ish said, and I wanted to say this part, almost the same as Rabbi Yaacov Haber. Somebody asked him, you have such a different derech than the Chabila Rav, why are you saying? It was very particularly close with the Torah of the Chabila Rav. So he said, when people are climbing a mountain, they're summiting a mountain. So there's so many different drachim to get up to the top of the mountain. So Chazon Ish said, everyone's looking at the other ones. He's going a really stupid way. Why is he going that way? Like here, the wind is better over here. The slope is better over there. Everybody's getting up to the top of the mountain. But when you're up on top of the mountain, when you're at the summit of the mountain, who cares how you got here? You got here. We're all up here. We're up here together. Well, let's do a rikun. Yeah. So here we.
Everyone's different.
Difference are good.
Yeah, I'm saying if everyone is different, there has to be a different way to get to where you're going.
That's right. Well said. Based on everything that we've ever learned, that everybody has their own personal neshama. So hagufa, if you're going in somebody else's way, it means you're not going the right way. If you're going somebody else's way, it can't be the right way, because if you're going the same way as everybody else, then you're not going your way. Now you got to be careful with this, as we're going to learn. Obviously, not everything that comes to anybody's mind is a legitimate. You don't get to dance in the circle. So this is really what we're going to learn, and that's why I gave this introduction. Ego.
It could be that my way is better than your way, but the point is saying all the ways will get to the end point, but some are more effective ways of getting there than others.
Everybody's in the same circle. Like once you're on top, once you summited the mountain, this difference. I'm stressing, do we really believe it? Because I don't know if we do or we don't, really, when it comes to where you're sending your kids to school or all the different nafkaminas. And I don't know if we really believe it or not, but at least we should hope for it. And they're pointing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is the essence of pointing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's all about Him. It's not about, do you learn every Tosfos? That's not what it's about. It's not about, is the Hasidic derech the right derech, or you're supposed to learn Kabbalah. They're all pointing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all one thing. At the end of everything, it's Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. It's such a simple yet profound concept that we have to at least hope for. That's what Masechta Titus ends with, that this is after a whole long machlokes over here, and a whole long sugya, by the way, about how to pick a wife. What's the purpose of a wife? All these difficult gemaras to even say over. Tzadikim all end up in the same place. We started learning Sabachei, and here it says, I'm just going to very quickly, because I don't want to go into the whole thing of Tachnun that we did last time. A person has to be Mosher Nefesh to Hashem Yisparach. I just want to point out, before I say anything, that in my in my regesh, Mesiras Nefesh is an overused term. Like every dinner, every kiddush, and he's Mosher Nefesh. Rabbi Kiva was Mosher Nefesh. I don't know, everybody's Mosher Nefesh because he clears off the tables. What is Mesiras Nefesh? I remember I was the guest speaker at a Hatzalah dinner, and I'm talking about how the beauty of Hatzalah, the importance of Hatzalah, and one of the Siddish guys there handed me a note. Don't forget about the Mesiras Nefesh of the wives. Okay? And the wives that are Mosher Nefesh. It's just a funny term, I think. Mesiras Nefesh, dedication, chesed, Mesiras Nefesh seems like a big word. But we have a new shot here in Mesiras Nefesh when you think about it. Maybe they're right. Adam sarach libsar nafshay la Hashem yisparach. That's your Mosher Nefesh. What does it mean? It means if what I'm doing now is not the ratzon of Hashem, then there's no reason for me to be alive. So Mesiras Nefesh is, if you're not, everybody, like you said, exactly like you said, everybody has a reason why they're alive. And if you're not fulfilling your purpose, your mandate, so you have to be willing to say that there's no reason for me to be alive. Take me. In other words, if a person just decides I'm not going to do my derech, there's no purpose in being alive. So one is ready to say, one has to be ready to say that I'm willing to die on this hill, or for this hill, meaning that I'm willing to be Mosher Nefesh in the sense, not that you have to die, in the sense that we understand that everything that I'm about is all for this purpose, and if I'm not going to do this purpose, what's the point? David HaMelech said, he says, in derech oitzev bi, if I'm not going on the right derech, on the derech that you want me to go on, so then let me out of this world. If I'm not going to do it, there's no other reason to be here. Yonah said, Toiv Moisi Mechayoy. I don't want to do what you want me to do. and I'd rather you kill me. I don't want to do it. In other words, but he understood. Yonah was enough. He understood. If I'm not going to do what you want me to do, then there is really no reason for me to be here. So okay, so I'll die. So the Mesiras Nefesh means that either do or die. That's what it means. Point one. Point two, we learned, and we'll get to our point today. Za'inyan nefilas hapayim. When we say, whenever one, acher kol tefillah, whenever one says tachnun, after you daven, tachnun, so you're lowering your head in front of Hashem. That's every time it's koyrim u'mishtachim, but particularly after Shemona Esrei. And the Pirush Hadavar of lowering your head is it's a bechina of misa. When we're saying tachnun every day, shachar, mincha, don't run away from tachnun. When you say tachnun, the kavana is that I'm either depending on the Mefarshim, I'm either dead. How does that feel? All the bad malachim get away from me. Or I'm ready to be dead. But what's this obsession with Misa? And the answer is, what I'm saying after the Shemona Esrei is I'm dedicating myself that as long as I'm alive, I want to do the Ratzon Hashem. And I'm willing at any moment to even feel like I'm B'misa, like it's something to imagine you're in a kever, you know? Sounds depressing, but it's actually quite liberating. Imagine that you're in a kever and you're davening to Hashem that all should go well. That's the kavanah of tachanun. Sounds like something you should do once every few years or at the end of your life, every day, shachris, mincha, because it puts life into perspective. And we find, he says, that in the story of Korach, which we're going to talk about for a few minutes, a very, very important nekuda of Korach, which is a new way of understanding the whole story, you find Moshe v'Aaron naflu apneim shtei pamim sham b'parshas Korach. That twice during the story did Moshe and Aaron v'yiplu apneim. They fell on their face. Why dafke here? V'yiplu apneim. Moshe and Aaron v'yiplu apneim. And here's where we'll start. Masayim v'chamishim ish chatu b'nafshoisam. 250 people in the Adas Korach. Can I ask somebody just ask them to speak a little bit lower? Just it's hard to. Masayim v'chamishim ish chatu b'nafshoisam. So Chazal say like this, Rabbi Yaacov, if you have a sefer, follow with me. The Gemara says, Rashi brings even, Korach shepikeach haya ma'ro l'shtus zeh. Korach was a smart man. How do we know he was a smart man? We're going to get to it. But it wasn't like, I don't know how everybody looks at Korach, but I want to give you a new view of Korach. Korach shepikeach haya. Chazal call him a pikeach. He came with 250 people. These were not a bunch of fools. It says in the Medrash, they were the heads of the Sanhedrin. Now, there was no Sanhedrin per se, but it means to say that when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, he started appointing people, teaching people, and you will be the ones that are trained to answer everybody's shilos. So these were the elite of Klal Yisrael. Korach was an elite of Klal Yisrael, Pikeach, and he was considered the big Chacham, and the others were Roshei Sanhedrius. Not only that, B'chlalam and this 250 people were Ashnei Maser Nesiim, the Nesiim of Klal Yisrael. So we're talking about all the Gedolim. Let that penetrate for a moment. We're talking about not, a bunch of Leitzanim, Korach, Dosai. We're talking about all the Gedolim.
Don't they all share it through a Korach
was a Levi.
Yeah, you laid it was Levium and
Shevet Ruvain and all the Roshei Sanhedrin, all the Roshei Ashvat, and all the Nesiim
That
Chazal.
wasn't in the pasuk that the Nesiim also joined in.
Well, Chazal. Chazal formulates it there in Medrash Rabbah. Formulates and proves that you see the names later. Shnei Maser Nesiim. Meir Lashon HaKosav. Look what the Torah says. That the Bnei Yisrael came to Moshe Rabbeinu after the whole story, and they said, Atem hamitem es am Hashem. Why'd you kill all the Gedolim? Atem hamitem es am Hashem. Emrak Yechidim u'kroi ba'am Hashem. 250 people or millions of people. Why were they called Am Hashem? Lefi sheshkulim keneged kol ha'am. Because they were the Gedolim. Moshe Rabbeinu, why'd you kill all the Gedolim? It's pretty dramatic, no? What'd you do? Not only that, they were smart enough to know, these people, the 250 people in Korach V'Adasei, that Moshe Rabbeinu had koach. We saw Moshe Rabbeinu was doing miracles. He split the sea. They understood that Moshe Rabbeinu has a koach, that they could all die now, going against Moshe. As a Reb Tzadok, they say, okay, so we'll all die now. In other words, this is the point of Reb Tzadok, this was a hill that they were willing to die for. It's not that they thought, they're right, that the earth's going to open up under Moshe Rabbeinu. If what we're stating, if the protest that we're making, if it doesn't have the emes, if we're not saying emes, so we'll die. Because that's what Mesiras Nefesh is. Like, you have to, if you're not willing, if we're not doing this, so what are we created for? So they were very, very strong in their belief. It wasn't just according to Reb Tzadok here, it wasn't just a machlekes karech v'adasid. It wasn't just like an upheaval or a protest or a coup, or a yearning for power. They had a shita. And we know all about their shita. We know all about the talis, about the Fulatchelas and the Bayis Malay Svar. We know about their shita, but it isn't explained here in a couple of lines, which is a whole different story. Gets us back to the Gemara. They were willing to die for what they believed. It's like on the surface it sounds stupid. If you're going to die, you're not going to win here. So the answer is, if it's a spiritual quest, and you understand this is the tachlis of Yom Shabbos, so why not die? Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh would, like if they were in it for the kavod, so what's the point of dying? And that's what Chazal asks. But what about the answer? Like what Chazal are saying, Rashi even brings, there must be more to this than what meets the eye, because okay, I guess you could see it's kind of funny when people die for their kavod. But still, it wasn't stupid. I always think to Bali Musar, always say that it was a great tzaddik, I forgot what his name was. I think Mendel Chassid, he was a Talmud of the Great. So he was a huge tzaddik, and fantastic tzaddik, and he was mamish noit lamos. Everyone came to see him because he was just about to die. And he was davening, Kodesh Baruch Hu to save him from the Yetzer Hara, from he was davening, that's really Atzlinu, Yetzer Hara. So they said, like, Rebbe, you have a Yetzer, you're old, you're dying, you're going to be dead in about 15 minutes. Like, what are you worried about the Yetzer Hara? What does it have to come to you? So he said that, right, he says, you can't see Yetzer Hara standing by my ear, telling me, say Shema Yisrael, because you're going to die, and be Meirach Be'echad, so everybody will say, oh, he died being Meirach Be'echad. Okay. So, like covered, I've seen it myself. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and told me what I should say in their hesped. Tell you, years ago, like, make sure you mention my garden.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Really, people have meetings. It's like part of their thing. You get your affairs in order, make sure your will is taken care of, make sure this is taken care of, make sure the rabbi knows what to say. He points out all my different godless. 1957, I was the head of the sisterhood. You hear things that, like, what do you care? Like, what do they say your husband? We care. Like, but over here, this is Kairach. The Gemara's question is a poignant question. Like, but Kairach shepikeachaya. We're talking about the Nasiya Yisrael. We're talking about the Rosh Sanhedrius. So if we're talking about all these, great people, so what are they getting involved in this? It was Mesiras Nefesh literally. The Kenyan Shamru ben Nazir. Why is it called Mesiras Nefesh? This is very important. We have Nefesh Ruach Neshama, Naran, Nefesh Ruach Neshama. We sort of know what the neshama is, or maybe we don't know what the neshama is, but we know what that's a very spiritual thing. Ruach is the part that makes us alive. What's the nefesh? It's not the guf. The nefesh is not the guf. The nefesh is like the life force within me, which is making me who I am. Who I am. That's what the nefesh is. Nefesh ruach neshama. A nazir who deprives himself is called chata ala nefesh. Brings a carbon. Mischayev ben nafshay. Like, are you sure, Nazir, that you were supposed to deprive yourself? Now here's the key thing. Give me your full attention here. Korach v'adasai understood. Yadu. Ki la'asid, remember the Gemara about the circle. There's going to be a time that lo yilamdu ish esreyehu. Yirmiyahu says this, Perek Lamed Aleph. Yirmiyahu says that there's going to come a time nobody's going to teach anybody. What does that mean? Nobody's going to teach anybody. Via madrega zu shekol eda kulam kedoshim. We're going to be on a level that nobody has to teach anybody anything because everybody already has the derech and the information that's necessary for them. In other words, Mullah Art's Deya is such, Yirmiyahu said, that it's not the whole hierarchy, if I understand it correctly, is going to disappear. Very deep thing that Korach is saying here, or at least Rav Tzadok is saying in Korach. The whole hierarchy is going to disappear. V'chashvu, and the Adas Korach came with this shita, shekvar higiu l'kach. That's where we're holding. We're holding La'as and Lavai. You see, it's important for us to understand this very simple thing, that Moshe Rabbeinu was approached by Hashem to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, our parsha. And Parshas Ve'era, Moshe Rabbeinu said, like, who am I? Who are they? And Hashem said to him, the first 3 psukim in Ve'era, Hashem said to him, listen, Moshe, I made 2 promises to the Jewish people, to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I made 2 promises. Number 1, that the Jewish people will last forever. Number 2, they will go into Eretz Yisrael. Read the psukim. Go into Eretz Yisrael, the 2 brisais that were made. And now we've come to that time. The Jewish people are already at the Memtesh Shari Tumah. We're not going to let them go down to the 50th. It's time to save them, and they're Batal Shavosam El Hashem. Batal Shavosam El Hashem. Their tefillos went up to Hashem. They were on such a low madrega, the Jewish people. Always mentioned this, that Shavosam, there's a lot of different words for tefillah. Shava refers to a tefillah when we daven and we don't even know we're davening. That's called Shavosenu. Shavosenu kabel ushmatz hakosenu. Shavosenu is the tefillah that we don't even know we're davening. That's where Bnei Yisrael was holding, Shara Nun. And the promise that Hashem made to the Bnei Yisrael is 1, they will be saved, and 2, you're going to go to Eretz Yisrael. What happens when you go to Eretz Yisrael? There's a gula. Comes Kerech V'Adasai, we're going to make a small stop at Har Sinai to get the information that we need for the gula. There was no Havamina in anybody's mind. This is so important to understand. There was no thought in anybody's mind that it's going to be 3,000 years till the Geula. Why? Gula, couple of weeks. The Gula, okay, we'll stop at Har Sinai for, that we need to go through to get out of this Memtesh Shari. We go to Har Sinai, Yichad Yisrael, they get a Har, Yalla. Go to Eretz Yisrael. How long does it take to go from Har Sinai to Eretz Yisrael? Without the Konfei to Sharb a week. It's not a long trip. It's like, right? Where's like, let's say you're coming a little bit past Eilat, So how long does it take to come to Eretz Yisrael? It's going to be the Gula. Start building the Beis HaMikdash, and imagine nobody had a thought of 2,000 years, 3,000 years. Gula. You save the Jewish people, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Gula. Har Sinai. Think about for a moment the experience of Har Sinai. The experience of Har Sinai was that everybody stood at the foot of Har Sinai and actually heard the voice of Hashem. Comes Korach Va'adasai, and he said, words of Rashi, Kulanu Abdu Har Sinai. We all stood by Har Sinai. Kulanu Shamanu, Alechi Hashem Alekecha, Asher Tzeicha Be'eretz Yisrael. Everybody heard these words from Hashem. We had this experience of Sinai. We came to the place which we're right ready for the Gula. So all the hierarchy that exists, Moshe Rabbeinu and the Zakedim, and must speak. It's gone. We're already holding in Yirmiyahu Parak Lamed Aleph, said Korach. Yeah, you understand? In other words, we should be down. Now we're in the circle, and now we're going around a circle, and we're talking. Every one of us is equidistant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And every one of us is saying, here's the day. The day has come. So they had a great, it wasn't about covet. It was about, Moshe Rabbeinu, don't you understand? Your job is over. Your job is over. You brought us to Torah. Yasher Koyach. You got us out of Mitzrayim. Yasher Koyach. You're the Navi Shebedaviyim. Wonderful. But now the Geula. Now,
the Nisim were relinquishing their leadership, their power?
It wasn't about power. It was about now we're the Nisim. We're in the circle.
There's no Nisim. Everyone was a Nisim. And there's no...
Tzadikim, that's why I started off by saying that Tzadikim are in the circle. Not everybody's in the circle. Tzadikim are in the circle. But these were the leaders, these are the Gedolim. Okay. So, as I said, I don't know how big the circle is. But these were, for sure, represent, as he calls it, Am Hashem, because they were, Fishashkulim Keneged Kolam. Let's say they were representative of all the people. But it's not democracy and not dictatorship. That's not what, you're talking about, like, we've come to the place where this is why we went on a Mitzrayim. We're waiting 430 years for this. This was promised us 430 years ago or more. Brisman Absar, Durchgemacht. Brisman Absar, we went through Mitzrayim. We have to go through a Holocaust also. It was unfathomable. If I'd have been there, I'd have gone along too. As it goes, of course, it's unfathomable that we're still going to struggle in Gullus. And I tell you the truth, I'm serious about this. Like, I understand Korach better than I understand Hashem. Why aren't we ready for the Gula? Says Reb Tzaddik, parentheses, Chashvu shekvar yigiu lekach, ki be'emes, because the truth is that lulei shagara machet, if it wouldn't be for the chet of the egel, hayu al madregas la'asid lavai. Yeah, but can you explain to me, there's a real question, like, okay, there was a chet of the egel. Okay, like, there's a chet of the egel, terrible thing. One second, who? First of all, was the Erev. First of all. Second of all, we killed those people. Who says, if you look at the Mefarshim, it was Gufa Kulei L'Shem Shemayim. The Malbim, the whole Arichas of the Egel was the Meiser Merkava they were trying to do. They weren't replacing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but just like everything I know about the Egel, I'm telling you in 1 minute. They weren't replacing the Hashem, they were replacing Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Ish Moshe, didn't come down the mountain, let's make an Egel. I'm not saying the Egel wasn't a big deal, but all the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made, that I'm taking, I mean, imagine the disappointment of the people that they just got out of Mitzrayim after all these years, and they lost their children, and they went through this whole horrible Holocaust and a triad genocide of the Jewish people, and here they are telling, no, there was an egel. And if it wouldn't be for the egel, you'd be right. In Teretz Yisrael, there's the Gula. I guess it's going to take another shiur to understand, like, the egel, but I certainly understand Korach. Like, he was there. He was Sheva Levi. He didn't even get involved with the egel. And Korach stood at Har Sinai. He heard Alochi Hashem Elikecha. As did the Nesiim. They were all there. They were all right there. They were all listening to Hashem. Ubetoichem Hashem. Kol ha'eda kulam kadoshim. Ubetoichem Hashem. Like, what is the... Umirayv hishtoike kusam lezeh. They were so tied into this madrega. Ad shenisratzu be'emes, she'im be'emes einam be'madrega zu. And this is the main nakuda that Reb Tzadok makes, and I want to leave it with this, because it's late. She'im be'emes einam be'madrega zu. Az toiv moisam michayim. If this is not a geula, what are we doing? They understood that they might die. But if this is not the geula, then what are we going to do? We're going to just hang around for a couple thousand years? Put the Jews through more tsaris? If this, maybe it was like a request of Moshe Rabbeinu, no, go back up on Har Sinai. You went back there once, you got the second luchos, go back again and tell them this is not the geula. What do we come out of Mitzrayim for? And that was the Mesiras Nefesh. You get it? That was the Mesiras Nefesh. It was called Mesiras Nefesh. One more thing he says here.
How does that relate to Rabbi Yaacov?
Okay, we'll get good question. But let me just finish this point. Says Reb Tzadok, I just want to read you a sentence here. Lakach afal pi shenikru chaytim. They were chaytim. I started 15 minutes late. Do I get to finish 15 minutes? I don't know. Afal pi shenikru chaytim b'shvil zeh b'nafshoisam. B'nafshoisam mikol malkam mayla gedolahu. Unbelievable thing. Ramban makes this point that Hashem told Moshe, run into the fire, take the fire pans that they had, that they were being makriv HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take them and make the fire pans of Korach v'Adas, and that's what happened. If you would have looked at the Mizbeach, what do you see? The coating of the Mizbeach is Korach v'Adas. Like what they should be they're vagromen in hell. What are they doing on the Mizbeach? Says the Ramban, there was a tremendous kedusha there. Ramban, there was a tremendous kedusha there. It was a hishtoikikus for the geula. Reb Tzadok says they understood that we're supposed to be at a different time now, and that Moshe Rabbeinu was yesterday. It's not today. They didn't chap the egel, just like I don't chap the egel. They didn't chap, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have kedusha. Grab the machtais. Hashem said to Moshe, move away from them. I'm going to kill them. As Reb Tzadok, Rabban asks, what if there's a group of Rishayim, and I'm standing in the group of Rishonim, doesn't Hashem know how to distinguish between the tzaddik and the rasha? Okay, so we find by Makas B'chayris that Kiva Shanited Rishus Lavashkis Lahashkis, but you know what, over there, it wasn't a mashkis, and it could be that the Bnei Yisrael coming out of Mitzrayim were. He was, right? We have it in both ways. Why does Hashem have to tell him he badlu? The answer is, these were tzaddikim. So there's this idea of hibadlu, get away from them, even though they might end up in that circle in Shemaim. Moshe emes, Terasa emes, they chapped afterwards. It's an amazing thing. Av lefi shehem, here's his words, lefi shehem, haya, Hayu b'davar zeh gedolim be'inyan ha'mesiras nefesh. They were willing to die for this. They knew they're going to die. They were willing to die for it. People are always nefesh for a cause. You've got to move away. You've got to move away, or you're gonna get the same owners as they do. Why? Because you're no better than them. They're meiser nefesh and you're meiser nefesh. You're right and they're wrong is not the point. People make mistakes. The ego was such that it prolonged the. We all know the ego was an avera, but it prolonged the gula from happening for thousands of years. How could it be? And as soon as they did that, they understood what's going on. Moshe and Aaron understood what's going on. And they said Tachnon. They were humbled. They were humbled by the fact that they were willing to give up their nefesh, and by them saying this Tachnun ki'ilu, they're also willing to give up. We're also willing to give up our nefesh. What they learned, they saw something in Korach v'Adasai that they're willing to get swallowed into the earth if this is not the Gula. Because what's the point? And Moshe and Aaron learned from that, and their reaction was not to jump into the hole there, but vayiplu al pneim. We're gonna match the madrega of vayiplu al pneim. Amru b'zayar de masru garmayu lamisa. When they, and here you have, by the way, the whole Tachnon. Zayar and Parshas Korach. Masru garmayu lamisa. They gave away when you bow down. You're willing to give everything up. You're willing. It means that there's, like, I'm willing to be dead. Everything that I'm all the gashmis that I have, even all the importance that I have, all the shitas that I have, everything that I have. Tachnon, I put my head down, humbled in front of the Ratzon Hashem. Ratzu lasis bezekim asehem. What an amazing idea. They Moshe and Aaron we want to be just like Korach v'Adasai. That's what he says, right? Ratzu lasis bezekim asehem. Shouldn't make machlekes over things. Leisachzik b'machlekes, shenemar leisachzik b'machlekes. If you don't, what Chazal's criticism, and it's very important what you're saying, because Chazal's criticism of Korach wasn't for their shita. It wasn't even for going against Moshe Rabbeinu. But like leisachzik b'machlekes, you have a different opinion, but it's machzik v'machlekes. That's the whole thing. Like, you can have a different opinion. The whole shas is machlekes. What's wrong with machlekes? Machlekes is a good thing. You're machzik v'machlekes. I think, by the way, what it means. Let me just say this. I think what it means that we get so involved with our personal cognitive condition that we could become shakranim. Like, in other words, the cognitive dissonance is this, that I so believe that my idea, I so want my idea to be the accepted idea that I can't even hear other ideas. So you know what? So from a ruchnius point of view, from a scientific point of view, from a any type of intellectual point of view, nothing will advance because we're machzik b'machlekes. I need to hold on to it. So I guess there's a point where Korach v'Adasai should have said, okay, like let's back off a little bit. We said what we said. Let's back off a little bit. But at the same time, it was honorable. I want to say one more word if I can. That because I said I was going to say this at the beginning. Like, does all this mean that anybody who holds anything gets to dance in the circle? Like, in other words, obviously, like, you can spend your life on this question. I'm going to spend about 60 seconds. Like, what does it mean? Like, okay, we get it. The Baal Shem Tov's dancing, the Gra's dancing, and the Or Chaim HaKadosh,
You said that they're dancing?
I'm saying.
Not holding the circle.
Well, because
are they holding hands?
They're sitting in a circle.
Yeah,
I tell you.
They're pointing, they can't be holding hands.
I mean, that's a deal. They don't want to touch each other. No, listen. I'm just telling you the reason why Hasidim all dance in a circle is because of the gemara. That's why that's why only Jews dance in a circle. You ever see Goyim do that? Huh? Everyone's an individual. Here, everybody's. You need the subject. Goyim do that.
Do it in sports.
Huh?
The team in sports, I'm in sports, they do it.
Don't dance in a circle. Huddle. Let me just share with you my political thought for a moment here. You could come, you could stay, you could go. It's just politics. But I just want to say what I just before I left for America was the inauguration, and so it was about 10 to 7, I think, our time, and had to be at the show at 7:30, and came on Arutz Sheva live inauguration. So my eye went to the inauguration. I'm an American, born. My father's an American. Fascinating. The inauguration, the tekes itself is fascinating, and you like it, you don't like it. Something historical is going on here because it's like a change of leadership, which is historical. But I was just there's 2 points that just like kind of hit my head. Number one is United States of America. Like God was everywhere in that inauguration. Trump didn't stop talking about God. Not only didn't stop talking about God, he was almost assassinated. God kept me here for a reason. Every time somebody said the word God, everybody applauded. So I thought to myself, oh, Mashiach is here, And Galachim are all talking about God, God, God. Everybody's talking about God. There wasn't a person who got up that didn't talk about, Melania's talking about God. Everybody's talking about God. And I'm thinking, wow, the bishops talk about God, and this country is based on God, and God we trust is not just on the money, it's like for real. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be Makatrik, Halavaya, a session in the Knesset would sound like this. like all God. Then, I don't want to say anything bad about his, Shabbat B'tu HaMelech, but, the very first, here comes the new president of the United States. And next to him is sitting all the most important personalities in the United States of America, all the former presidents that are alive, Obama, Bush, Biden, sof kol sof, there were presidents of the United States. What's his first words? Corruption has now ended. He looks at that. It's all over. And I'm thinking to myself, can't you be nice? like why insult all the presidents of the United States of America? And you're just talking about God, God, God. So how do people that are so believing in God insulting millions of people? There's nice ways to say the same thing. You could just talk about the future. You could talk about the answer is, I'll tell you what, because they don't connect the dots. You could believe in God. It doesn't mean you have to be a mensch. Rabbi Kiva said, the klal gadol b'Torah. They don't know from Rabbi Kiva. And I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying, Ashrenu matov chalkenu. That nobody in this room, and nobody, of course you're going to make your point and argue, but there's no connection between being somewhat of a mensch and not being mavaza people in front of 200 million people or 50 million people, and God. They're both sincere, but they don't get to dance in the circle. You see, because to dance in the circle, it means that I'm understanding the one main thing everybody has to understand is Ratzon Hashem. So, I always quote my Rebbe on this: if you're not a mensch, you're out of the game. If you're not a mensch, you're out of the game. It doesn't make a difference how much Torah you know. It doesn't make any difference what a genius you are. It doesn't make even a difference how much chesed you did. If you're not a mensch, you're out of the game. And so when we talk about, sharing with you a regesh. I'm not, politics. But you want to stand or dance or sit in that circle, the inner circle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it takes two sides of the luchos. It takes Adoichi Hashem Elokecha, but it also takes Lo Sirtzach, and Lo Signoif, and Lo Sinaf, and Kabedus Avicha Vesimecha. That's all part of the game. And those are the people, if we're all getting to there, then we get to stand equidistant. A lot of ways up the mountain, but we're all summited at that point. Yeah, that's what I